What's up, what's up? You know I got the board out, which means shit's about to go down. We know we're gonna have a good talk when that happens. What's up, everybody? What's up, Sky? What's up, Kayla, Kyla, Maddie? What's up, Nessa, Nalita? Hello, Anilu. What's up, Ash? What's going on? Okay, so we're gonna be jamming. I got the board out, so you know shit's going down, right? We're gonna have a little talk. What's up, Rob? Good to see you on here, brother. What's up, Ashleen? Hi, Ramona. Yeah, so we're gonna get down. We're gonna have a conversation, not get down, but you know what I mean. We're gonna have a good jam on what I see as being not just the most common ways that our relational patterns, where they begin, but also how do we change them, right? Because that's ultimately it. It's like when you have knowledge, that's one thing, but actually transforming your knowledge is a whole other thing. So, you know, as I go through this, you're gonna probably see where things might have started out for you, but also what is the way that you change the thing, right? You know, and I think this is an important aspect of this conversation is, oh, I see your question, Dean. But the important aspect of this conversation is how do you change? How do you transform, right? Like knowledge eventually, right? This idea that Tony Robbins has is he says that we change for two reasons. One, because we learn so much we have to, and two, because it hurts so much we have to. And I think a lot of the times that knowledge is actually what creates more pain. Is like once you learn enough, or you've hit enough of a rock bottom, or enough pain, or enough, oh man, enough is enough. Like, I'm so tired of this bullshit. I'm tired of the same patterns in relationship. I'm tired of getting the same outcomes. And you're like, you know what? I really want to change this. I really want to move this. I'm finally ready, even though you might have got cosmic 2x4s to the head for a long time. And now the cosmic dump truck came and hit you and you're like, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to actually change. So the reason I got one headphone in is because one, I don't like shooting EMF through my brain. And two, so that the microphone is better, so that you can hear it. So, you know, and yes, tomorrow Dating 101 starts, and Dating 101 will essentially take you through what I'm about to show you, but on a much, much, much deeper level. And She Wanders Earth, The Untethered Soul is so beautiful. Such a great book by, I think it's Michael Singer. I read that not that long ago. Fantastic. Okay, so in relationship, we have essentially, we're just going to stay on monogamy here. For the polyamorous people, just add more people and then add more complexity and then likely add more insecurity, anxiety, and avoidance, just because when you have that many people in a system, depending on your relational structure, that can get a little more hairy. Which isn't to say there's one way that's right, but I'm going to focus on this one because it's simpler when I'm involved with two people in this conversation. So we all know, right? Like generally the relational pattern that shows up is we're either moving towards relationship, right? And we're the one chasing, or we're the one moving away from relationship, right? And so there's many reasons why we move towards. A lot of the times it's due to insecurity, it's due to anxious attachment style, it's due to that really what occurs is we have space between two people, and I like to explain this way, is that this space is what we actually have the challenge relating to. The people who like to run from love or run from closeness, run because space, a lack of it, creates stress. And so their way of dealing with not knowing how to be close to people, or closeness having hurt and created trauma in the past, makes them want to move. These people tend to have more of a rejection abandonment wound. And so there's the space, if there's too much, they want to close it down, hence the arrow trying to close it. This person's trying to distance. So these people usually end up in relationship together because what happens is their worlds are validated by each other. This person says, when I get close to people, I'm too much, they leave. And this person says, when people get too close to me, they're too much or they hurt me, so I go. So most of us do these things. We go towards relationship before the space has actually been there. We sense there might be space, and we're usually hyper attuned to space, right? Like hyper attuned to the possibility of space, but we're so hyper attuned that we often miscode things, right? We're anxious. So we're anxiously attached. So I see everything as a possible insecurity or a possible shaking of that security and the possible distancing, that I tend to overcorrect and go towards them too soon. And or remember, you're also leaving yourself when you do that. You're not just chasing towards love and closing down this space. And in this space is where attraction lives. That's a heart and also a butt, but whatever. So this is where attraction lives, right? This is the space that creates attraction. Now, in this person, they leave the relationship. They also leave themselves too, because they can't stay within their own bodies, within closeness, right? So we both have these ways of managing what is ultimately insecure attachment, right? That's what it is. And that's why you can go from chasing and then running. You can do both because it's so easy to just cycle, right? It's so easy to cycle because what really is required of both of us is to stand still, right? Is to learn, how do I stand still? Now, here's the issue though. In the standing still, there requires regulation. So when I talk about how you heal this stuff, it's not just an intellectual thing. You need to learn and understand the intellectual, but to actually transform it requires a changing of your internal dialogue, a changing of your internal landscape or your schema or your architecture, whatever you want to call it. So the first part is, and this is the key to all really successful relationships, no matter the context, is responsibility for self. For you, taking responsibility for yourself. And so in that, learning how to stand still is learning how to stand still within your own feelings, within your anxiety, within your avoidance. Now listen, mostly avoidant people will not be watching this video. They tend to not watch stuff because they tend to not consume a lot of information on this subject because there's often not a thought it's about them. And that's one of the sort of coping mechanisms of avoidance. And I'm not saying all the time, because I've certainly been avoidant. And when I was avoidant, I didn't know I was afraid of actually being loved till someone said to me, hey, are you afraid of being loved? Like, have you ever actually let someone love you? And I was like, oh shit, I haven't. And then you start to see all your relational patterns that show that you're avoidant, right? And so I see Aaron, no, I'm totally avoidant and I don't want to deal, right? But you're here, and so you're learning about the subject. And so it's not to say that avoidant people don't want to learn. I'm saying that avoidant people don't tend to find themselves in relational content because they're not looking for it, generally. And so a lot of it, now avoidance can be, spread into two parts here. One is a dismissive avoidant, which is more like appears as high self-confidence, tends to have more one-night stands. Again, like, these are not judgments. These are just what the research shows. They tend to think people can be too much, that people want too much, relationships are just a lot of work. But in that is actually like a fear of closeness, fear of losing themselves, fear of potentially being hurt. And then there's a fearful avoidant who's actually been traumatized. And so they actually see the value and the beauty in relationship, and they want one, they just don't trust relationship. And if you could argue that neither anxious nor avoidant actually trust relationship. And so we go through attachment styles in Dating 101, which starts tomorrow. We go through that. We go through what I'm about to tell you about, which is what ultimately creates these patterns is past conditioning. Right, is like what you observed as your parents, how they related, how your grandparents related, how your great-grandparents related. And you got to think, like, you don't even have, these are all people, you don't even have to go very far up a family tree, right? Like, this would only be your grandparents, and then, your parents, and then, can you see that still? Yeah. And then you. So this is you. So listen, this is assuming no divorce, right? This is assuming no divorce. And so now you've already got 6 people's shit coming down into you, right? And that's only 2 generations above you. You go up another generation, you got 8, another 16. Again, assuming no infidelity, assuming all of these things, because as soon as you have infidelity, you have another system in there, another person. As soon as you have children that are divorces and children that are with other families, you have more people's stuff. And this is not to say that you can't change any of it, because you can change all of it. And that's the beautiful thing about patterns. These are all patterns. They're not who you are. You can change them. That's why I create courses, so you can learn how to go through the stages of understanding, because ultimately what you need to do is look up your family tree and learn what you inherited. Learn what are the patterns. And if you're male or female, you usually can go up the paternal tree or the maternal tree and see pretty common ways of feeling, pretty common ways of being, pretty common relational patterns. And often we say, oh, you marry your opposite sex parent. That's not true. You tend to be attracted to and drawn into relationship with people who injure you in a similar way to a parent that injured you the most. And we all have, family wounds. We all have relational wounds from growing up. And so this is about learning, what are they? Why am I drawn to this? And in Harville Hendricks' work, Getting the Love You Want, the thought is that we are unconsciously drawn to the rewounding in order to heal it, right? And that's really, think about that. That's like any pattern of choice, right? Like if I'm, entering a choice point in my life and I'm right here and I've got, okay, I can go for unavailable people or available people, right? Like person just out of a relationship or person not just out of a relationship. If I keep going for unavailable, right? Like I keep going this way, I'm going to keep ending up at this exact same fucking choice point. I'm going to keep ending up here. It becomes Groundhog Day, and it just becomes the same experiences over and over. And it's likely because I've never seen someone model making a different choice. And this could be any pattern of behavior. This could be how we relate to food, or how we relate to our bodies, or how we relate to drugs, how we relate to alcohol, how we relate to all these things, which ultimately all of those things are ways of not turning towards something. As Gabor Mate says, when asked why the addiction, the true question is why the pain? And so it's really that we need to learn how to turn towards our pain in a different way. Right? So we look at, okay, I keep going unavailable. This is the unavailable person. So I keep going here. And there's pain that keeps getting reunited here in the unavailability, right? And so I could decide at some point to sit in the space of this injury, right? Of maybe someone not being present to who I am, to what I actually need, to what I actually want. But what we're doing is we're seeking it in the relationship. We're seeking someone to finally do that, be present to us, when really what we want to do is be present to ourselves. So the things that are external are the things we keep chasing to not be present with ourselves that's in the space of this pain is knowledge, right? There's so much wisdom if you were to just sit in this choice before you make it. And say, what has all of this taught me? What has all this unavailability taught me? But you could do it about anything you've experienced. Any pain you've experienced, you could literally just sit and say, teach me, how do I never get here again? How do I navigate this? Right? Like there's so much wisdom in these things, but instead of actually paying attention to this, we keep making the same choice and we stay in the familiar. We stay in the certainty. Right? And of course, being avoidant and doing the work doesn't give you the right to be an asshole and step on people. Being avoidant and doing the work is not someone who is an asshole who steps on people. Assholes who step on people are assholes who step on people. And that's not there's never an excuse to do that. So I don't know who taught you that, but fuck that. That's bullshit. And there's doing the work and being an empath doesn't actually give us ever a reason to tolerate that shit. Or to deal with that shit, right? That's really the thoughtful process, right? So if we're in this space and we're at this decision tree and we get unavailable is familiar and all of a sudden I go to available, well, I'm going to be creating a whole new nervous system here. I'm going to be recreating a whole new space where I'm likely not familiar, right? So now I'm in the uncertainty. I'm in a space where I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So we need to start to explore this, because in this is actually us being present to our needs and what we actually want, right? And you see, this is such a beautiful opportunity for us to change our lives, because in this space of presence, like, I've never had someone who's available, right? Because that's usually the point. I keep choosing unavailability. Why? Instead of saying, I've never chosen it, what am I afraid of if someone actually shows up for me? What am I actually afraid of if someone's actually present to my pain and my suffering? What am I actually afraid of? What am I afraid someone will see if they stay, if they love me, right? Those are such good questions to ask ourselves. And then in there is perhaps unworthiness, perhaps not being seen that we were enough because someone left, because whatever. But again, remember, this isn't going, what's really fascinating about this is this story, whatever you discover under all of the things that you're saying in these comments right now, it's likely not your pain. It's likely not your injury. It's likely not your wound. It's likely inherited. It likely fell down your family tree onto your lap, waiting to be the apple that gets eaten, which is probably a good pun or play on Adam and Eve, right? Because as soon as you eat the apple, as soon as you turn towards your family tree and you look up at it and you go, what have you handed me? You go, oh, I'm awake now. Like, if you experience anxiety, you don't know where it comes from. Just look up your family tree. Who else experienced anxiety? Right? Like, you start to recognize that all the relational patterns you're trying to fix, that you're fighting to fix, aren't even yours, but they're yours now because you're living them. And so you got to change them. So how do you stop passing down the bad apple? You eat it, right? You eat it and you wake the fuck up. And you change your life and you change your patterns and you change your relational choices. Eve, I'm not into the Garden of Eden birth story because it also made her the bad person. Although I'd say pretty good job eating the apple, because awesome. Let's eat the apple and wake the fuck up and pay attention to what life is really about and what we're really doing here, right? So all of a sudden you're aware. Okay, thanks, Mark. Now I know that there's likely something in my family system that I inherited. So we all are probably on the same page here now. And so in Dating 101, we go through this process. Let's understand your past. Now, the other thing that affects your life today is what's occurred in your life, what's shaped your life. Not just what fell down your family tree, the apple that we're eating, but also what has shaped your life and your life experiences. And then what have those things done in terms of creating beliefs for you? Because whenever you look at someone and you have this conversation, you say, what do you want? What do you want? What is your ideal relationship? You'd go, okay, I want a beautiful, this pen sucks. I want a beautiful pen. I want a beautiful, ooh, that shit is fresh. Look at that. I want a beautiful, loving partnership. And then we'd go, okay, well, what are you choosing? Not that. Okay. Do you have the skills to create that? No, not really. Sometimes I get really angry and shut down. Sometimes I push people away. Sometimes I overchase. Sometimes I overshare. Sometimes I do all these things. So is that the type of skill set that creates a loving, beautiful relationship? Yes, actually, it can be the beginning of one. Of course it can, because we all start there and we all go to those spaces relationally, right? So we might ask ourselves, am I willing to do the work? Am I willing to find someone who's also willing to do the work? And whenever there is these desires, but you're not choosing that, that's the key. Wherever there is a difference between what you say you want and what you're choosing, there's an unconscious belief getting in the way that's 100% certain. Wherever what you say you want and what you're choosing are not in alignment, there's unconscious beliefs that are getting in the way. So you have to discover what are your beliefs, right, that get in the way. And so when we look at this, we would say, one, your beliefs are shaped from your past conditioning. So what you witnessed, what you inherited, what you saw your parents doing, what you saw your family be like, what you read about, what your religion taught you about relationships, divorce, communication, what you were taught as in terms of your gender, in terms of what was okay as a man, as a woman, or anything in between. Right? So there's so much complexity to what shapes our beliefs, but the most important work you can do is take responsibility for what beliefs you hold. And some of them are going to be good and some of them are going to be bad. Some of them are just going to be things that hold you back from actually finding love. Like I could tell you right now that if I go to any city, I can find someone who says that city is the worst place to date. Almost guaranteed. And it's almost like everybody wants the award for worst city to date. But if you believe there are no available people in your city, I guarantee you will find unavailable people all over your city, right? Because that's a confirmation bias. You're going to want to seek to validate what you believe is true. So the one is past conditioning. The next one is what's occurred in your life. The next one is your nervous system and how it's been affected by that. Because it's one thing to understand your beliefs and change them, and also where they come from. But you actually have to learn how to change on a biological level what's going on when you are anxious, when you are avoidant. How do you get regulated again, right? And so in all of this is the opportunity for you to become discerning about how you date and how you relate. Listen, like in Dating 101, we walk you through how does the nervous system work? How does your past how does your past family stuff shape your experience today? How does your family system shape your experience today? And how does that show up in you as you express? How did all of that manifest into how you behave in every communication, every space? And then figure out, what do you actually want? What do you actually want? And I see here Jess Bubico. Dating 101 is amazing. Highly, highly, highly recommend. It starts tomorrow. So make sure you sign up. You can go to datingisdope.com or just go to the link in my bio. Does it help to write down your beliefs versus your parents? It helps to write down what beliefs were you taught unconsciously and consciously. Is it for married people? I would say if you're married, if both of you took it, that would be really helpful, or one of you. But a really good book, if you're married, this is a really good book. The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John Gottman and Nan Silver. That's a fantastic book. Is it for married people? No, it's for dating, but it is about relating and dating. It's just that there are parts that are about, how do you actually choose a good partner? If you have already chosen that partner, it'd be kind of interesting, right? Because you're like, can't swipe left now. Right? And I'm not minimizing the obviously very challenging experience it is to actually make changes while you're in a relationship, especially if you wake up within a relationship and eat the damn apple, and all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, how did I get here, right? That's challenging. That's the book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by the Gottmans. Okay, so in all of this, in Dating 101, you're going to learn, where'd you come from? How did your childhood and your life up until today shape you? Who are you now? What do you actually value? What do you actually want? How do you create that? And how do you not fuck around? Because if you've never taken a course from me, all my courses are about, let's get shit done. We're not here to fuck around. Time is a privilege. The amount of time we believe we have is a privilege. So I'm like, let's get to it and let's change our life. And if you change your life from a relational dating perspective, you will change your whole life. So you can just go to datingisdope.com or go to the link in my bio. Now, the thing that we do too is you do an audit of your life today. You figure out, what is it today? What am I like today? What am I choosing today? How am I out of alignment with who I say I am today, right? And then how do I let go of what was, right? And from a parent's point of view, this course works for a parent. It works for anybody. I could ask like a 65-year-old, can I take this? Dating at 65 is way different. I'm like, cool. Yes, you could take it, right? And I do have a podcast, the Mark Rose podcast. Look it up. Link's also in the bio here. And there's tons of different guests that I have on there. So in this context, remember, the pattern that we tend to do, right, is we tend to go towards or we tend to run, right? And so this is about, how do I get to a place where I stand still? How do I get to a place where I can choose my partner? And most of us are just waiting for someone to choose us. And it's like, become the actual creator of your life. Become the chooser of your life. Take responsibility for your life. The one thing, even if you don't take the course, it doesn't matter to me. The one thing that will change your life is taking responsibility for it. If you want to learn how to let go, complex question, right? Because letting go can happen at any moment. But it happens the moment that you decide to do the things that the thing you're holding on to holds you back from doing, right? Like the moment that you're like, I will not let this hold me back from doing the things I want to do in my life. And then you go do it. And you start doing it. It's like when you break up with somebody. And then you're like, I can't go to that restaurant anymore. Go to the damn restaurant, right? Like, I hate dating. Cowabunga, Kim. You can love dating. You can learn how to love dating. This is the point of Dating 101, is to teach how to actually learn how to love it. We only hate it because we hate what we associate with it. We hate what dating is associated with, right? It's like, but that's because we don't trust ourselves, or we don't trust other people, or we associate relationship and relating and dating with some sort of pain, with some sort of something. And it's like, then take it back. You know, it's like when you break up with someone and then you're like, I'm never going to date again. I'm never going to date again. Who wins? Is this to prove a point of who got hurt the most, right? It's like, I will never date again. I'm going to prove to them how much they hurt me. They're probably not thinking about it, which is sad. I hate to say that. They're probably not thinking about it. And I don't mean that to say like, you're not worth thinking about, because you're worth thinking about. But you got to start thinking about yourself and actually claiming your life and going and doing all the things that you want to do, right? Like, no one's going to sit around and change our lives for us. No one's going to grab us by the hand and be like, okay, let's go make all these changes now. It's like, we have to. And that's not ever to dismiss the pain from that. But like, I read the other day, someone wrote a question into me where they said, I broke up with this person and they didn't even try to chase me and get me back. It's like, well, did you break up with them so they would chase you and get you back? Because now you're just validating that you're not worthy of being chased and gotten back, but you broke up with them. And this is what often happens. I get this all the time, where someone sends me a message. I'm unfollowing you. You're the same type of person who breaks up with someone so they'll change, the same type of person who wants someone else to know that you're leaving, and then you hope that they fight for it. I'm not going to change and fight for someone to follow me. It doesn't matter to me, because I'm living in my truth and I'm authentic to myself. And that's the exact thing. Is like, are you breaking up with people to get them to fight for you? Why not have a conversation about fighting for you? Leaving things to get people to change, right? Not effective. Leave them because it's time to leave. Right? I once broke up with a girlfriend being like, well, I guess it's over. She's like, you're ending it? And I was like, yeah. And then I was so resentful that she didn't try to get me back when I'm the one who left. Are you kidding me? That's why I recognize that pattern so much, because I did it. Instead of trying to break up with people and end a relationship to get them to chase you, chase yourself, because that's ultimately what we want. Is we keep, and I said this at the beginning of this video, we often try to get from people in relationship what it is that we need from ourselves. If you want to stop chasing people in relationship and stop pursuing the same type of wounding over and over and over again, choosing the same people over and over and over again, then start giving yourself the thing that you keep seeking from them. I want presence. I want to be a priority. I want to feel important. I want to feel unconditionally loved. I want to feel safe. I want to get to know me. Those are all the solutions. If you never felt understood, you never felt like a priority as a kid, you never felt really important, you never felt safe, you never felt secure, start to give yourself all of those things. Start to give yourself all of those things. And then you won't seek it from them. You won't seek the healing from them. They'll just be able to love you. And that's when we stop subcontracting our healing to other people. We stop subcontracting it through relational choices. We start to just give it to ourselves, and then we can show up to dating without trying to get anything or without trying to avoid anything. And you do that by giving yourself the very thing you always chase from partners. I want fidelity. Can you stay faithful to yourself? I want someone who doesn't lie. Do you lie to you? Do you lie about the people who lie to you? Do you lie about the truths of what you're choosing in your life? I want someone who just values real deep connection. Do you? Are you dating people who value the superficial? You know, because of course it's easier said than done. That's the whole point. That's why not everyone has it. Because living a fulfilling life is way easier said than done. Because having hard conversations is hard. Putting on adult pants is hard. I like jogging pants. Don't get me wrong. But putting on like getting dressed up, not good sometimes. Showing up. Because life is messy, show up anyway. Right? Life's hard. Show up anyway. Life's challenging. Show up anyway. Right? And this is, again, not to lack any compassion for ourselves, not to lack any compassion for where it comes from. It's to be both compassionate for where it comes from and choose to change it. I want to be seen. Do I see me? Do I attend to my needs? That's exactly it, Colt. That's exactly it. And then you find a person that gives you those things? No, because you won't need to find them because you have already done it. So how do you stop? How do you stop the pattern? You said eat the bad apple. Listen, when you wake up to the awareness of your relational choices, you're eating the apple of awareness. I only said an apple falls down the family tree, and then I made a pun based on Adam and Eve. I grew up Catholic, so I had to own that story back and be like, oh, maybe there's actually a goodness to this story other than making women seem like they're bad and ruin everything, because they don't, but that's the beautiful Catholic story of Adam and Eve. So how do you change it? You change it by paying attention to the awareness of what you learn about your relational patterns, what you inherited, your family history, what happened in your life, how that all shows up into the choices you make. And also you pay attention to what do you want to create in relationship and in your life, and what are you choosing versus what you want. And then you take responsibility for the gap between who you say you want to be and what you want in your life and what you're actually choosing. You take responsibility for that gap and you close it. And when you close that gap, you're living in alignment with yourself. You're free. You know, there's a saying from Rumi that I love to share, which is, why do you stay in the prison when the door's right there? The prison is all of the constructs of who we were taught we needed to be, what things we were told we couldn't be that were part of our authentic self-expression, right? And we start to really claim those things again. We get them back. Yeah, I do agree it was Adam's. It's everybody's fault. Is there a situation to get back with an ex? Not if it requires going backwards, as long as they're meeting you in your future. Miss Dietrichson, we go through anxious and avoidant activation because that's about healing your nervous system. And so it is about sitting within it, not allowing the anxiety to cause you to make a choice, a behavior. So you actually sit in the anxiety and you're like, what's here? Don't allow it to make you text. Don't allow it to make you overreach. Don't allow it to have you respond. You sit in the space of the discomfort of the relationship and someone perhaps not being happy, or someone not blaming you for how they feel. Someone else's discomfort, you stop trying to save them from it. And so, in all of this, this is not about not needing people. This is not about that. This is not about not loving people or depending on people. Needing and depending on people are human. They're really important. It's not needing people to complete you, not depending on people to complete your wholeness. You are already whole, and boundaries draw a circle around who you are. And like that question, how do you get someone to change who doesn't want to, if they don't want to go to therapy and work on the relationship? Then you have a consequence. Listen, if you don't want to change, that's okay. You don't want to go to therapy. What would you like to do, right? You can get curious. What is it about those things that holds you back? What is it about therapy? What is an intervention or a strategy we could do to actually work with your needs and with mine? And if they don't want to do those things, then you have to leave the relationship, You have to leave the relationship. And that's part, often, when someone says like, what is growth, right? It's like, how do I know what growth is to stay or go? One of the questions to ask someone is, what's abandoning yourself, to stay in the relationship or to leave it? If they fixed everything, would you want it? There's a great book called Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay. Fantastic book. I recommend checking it out. So thank you for everybody. Colt, I appreciate that. Dude, man, at first I did not like you, but now I love you. You're the man. Been following you for a year. Thank you, Colt. I appreciate that. Well, sharing what goes on in my head, and also like the truth about relationships is not always something people want to hear. Like, I didn't want to hear it. That's why I avoided it for so long. But I think the more important thing, and this is just a good premise for all of us to have, is it's more important that someone feels loved, someone feels the truth of our words than like us for the truth, right? Like, it's more important that I share what I know to be true than you like me for it. If I make you liking me for it, then I won't share the truth. I will hide the truth so that you like me. But I think if anything has taught us, especially in the last year and a bit, is that we have to tell the truth. We have to tell the truth because our lives and our future depend on it. And we have a lot of truths we're avoiding, especially when it comes to our relationship with the planet and all of those things. So Dating 101 starts tomorrow. So if you want to get connected to the truth of dating and relating, let's do it. Go to datingisdope.com or click on the link in my bio. The book that I recommended for married people is 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John Gottman and Nan Silver. So much love, everybody. This will be saved. I hope you have a beautiful day.